For those of you that are struggling with creating the camera, we're going to go ahead and go through a video and I'll show you how to make the camera step by step. I won't show you how to do any of the additional features that I asked to be added onto the camera, but I will show you how to get the general outline of the shape. That way you can get this done and create it on your own. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and go into the Autodesk program, and I already have it open, but I'm going to go ahead and click new up here, or go to the icon, go to new, and then when you go to choose a part file, don't choose the standard inches.ipt part file by default. Go ahead and select metric, and since this one is in millimeters, we're going to go ahead and select standard millimeter.ipt. You can double click it, or you can just click on it and hit create. So we have our workspace. Going to start a new sketch, choose my XY plane, and then I'm going to look at the camera. With this one, I would probably suggest that you make the overall shape of the camera, which is going to be a rectangle. We can start from this corner, that's fine, and we're going to make this rectangle right here on the front, and then we're going to extrude it back. So it's kind of difficult to see the vertical dimensions for this because they don't place it on the front. They do place it on the back. However, they have a dimension from here to this line right here, which is 50, and a dimension from here to here, which is 10. So we're going to combine those two for the overall height of this object, which would be 60, and the overall width or length would be 100. So we're going to go ahead and make a rectangle that is 100 by 60. So once we have selected the rectangle tool, again I'm going to use the I'm going to input 100, then I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to type 60, and you'll notice that it's putting in millimeters for me. Go ahead and hit the front view, that way I can see my rectangle shape. Hit the finish sketch button, hit the home button on the view cube so that it brings this out so we can actually see it. I'm going to now extrude this a certain distance. They don't give us an overall, but they do give us two measurements to combine, so we're going to add those two together for a distance of 30 on the extrusion. So go ahead and extrude it 30. Hit OK, and we now have our shape to work with. Right now I'm not using the view cube to move my object around. I'm holding down the shift button and the middle mouse button simultaneously, and this allows me to rotate the object. You could also just hold down the middle mouse button, and that will allow you to pan. So if you don't feel like using the view cube, just use those two combination of buttons to get the object in the view you want. So I want it to be like this. I'm going to go ahead and right click on the home button and set current view as home, fit to view. This is the view I want to be my front of the camera because it most resembles the picture right here. And there's a couple of different ways that we can start this. We can make the front really quick, we could make the button, we could make the little rectangle on the top, or the square, or we could make this small square here. We're going to go ahead and knock out the middle rectangle really quick. Go ahead and start a sketch on the top section. I'm going to see that the dimension for this is 30, and it's by 30, so we're going to put it in the middle, and I can see that this side is 35 millimeters away from this edge. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my rectangle and make sure that it is, if I go this way, it increases one dimension. So I want to increase the one that's currently highlighted, set it to 30. So again, we're going to set this one to 30. This one should auto default to 30. And then I'm going to use the dimension tool from this edge to this edge to make sure that it is 35 away. Currently it is 45.717. We're going to left click here, and then I'm going to type in my dimension. That should have automatically given it the appropriate length away from this side. Let's double check. and we have 35 on that side, so we're good. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to extrude this 10 millimeters. Do the extrusion here. This is not the only way that this can be done. There are multiple ways that it can be created, but this one will be the quickest for most of you. So we have a rectangular shape, and now we need to cut out a little section right here. They don't really give us a measurement. They just have a line that's at 45 degrees. So for this one, you can just start a sketch on the side of that shape, and I'm just going to zoom in, not that far, right here at the edge, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit tab, change the degrees to 45, hit tab, and I'm just going to bring the line up and connect it. Once I have it there, I'm going to finish boxing off this section, because this is the portion that I want to cut out right here, and if I don't, it won't let me select either side. So I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch, and you'll have a triangle right here that we're going to extrude or cut out, and we're going to go ahead and set the distance to all just for this one so that it cuts the entire thing away. We're going to hit OK. We now have this little portion completed. Next, we'll go ahead and make the square, and we're going to make this circle here. Both of these are extruded up 5 millimeters, so we can make them simultaneously. We just need to know where they're placed. It's hard to tell, but the center of this square is actually 15 away from the edge, and the same thing applies with this circle. So I'm going to go ahead and make a square on this side, and the square is actually a 10 by 10 square, and the circle is 20 millimeters in diameter. So I'm going to go ahead and make the square first on this side, and we'll use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to space it 10 by 10, and hit enter, and then I can use the dimension tool to find out how far away from the edge it is here. If the center is 15 and this is 10 by 10, we're going to take half of that, which would be 5, and subtract it from this 15. So it gives us a 10 measurement from edge to edge. So from here to here, we should have a measurement of 10 millimeters. Same thing with this edge. So it's in a pretty good spot right there. You're going to go ahead and hit finish sketch. We can extrude this button up. Again, it goes up 5. Hit OK. And then we can do the same thing to this side. Now, if I had done these buttons before I did this portion, I could have done them at the exact same time and extruded them both up. But because I did this section first, I divided the two surfaces, and it has to be done separately now. So I'm going to go ahead and place my circle. I know that it's in the middle, so I could either type in the middle dimension with the circle, or I can go like this to the edge, the green dot is, go over until I see a green dot here, and then bring it up. It's hard to see it, but there is a little dotted line in here that lets me know that I am in the middle. And I could have done the same thing on this side if I wanted to, but I'm just going to go ahead and use right here, go up. Doesn't really matter how far I make it, but I need to make it 20. And then I'm going to dimension it away from here. And we can look and see how far that dimension is. Again, it's 15 from the center. So 15. And if I click on the little circle, or the little dot in the middle, and I do the same thing with this edge, it should be 15. So we're good there. Go ahead and hit finish sketch. Extrude. And it's already at 5, so we're going to hit OK. Last part that we have right here is the center of the camera. For the lens, we're going to go ahead and start a sketch on the front surface, and we're just going to create a big circle. Find the center point again, go up, and we're just going to make it. This one has a diameter of 50, so we're going to type that. The circle where I placed it's a little bit off of the camera. We're going to adjust that. We know that this is 60 overall based on these dimensions right here, and we want to make sure it's halfway. So we're going to go ahead and type 30. It's going to move the lens for us. We already know it's in the middle right here, so it should be at the dimension for this should be at 50 from here to here. So that one's good. Go ahead and finish sketch, and then we're going to extrude. The extrusion for this one is at 20 millimeters, so go ahead and type in 20, hit the OK button, and we now have our camera finished. The only thing that's different is there is a line that goes around here. If you are feeling comfortable with it, and I do suggest that you try it if you have enough time, you can start a sketch and go ahead and create the new sketch, and then what I would do is I would just find a spot and make a rectangle. It doesn't really matter how big. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a thickness of 1 millimeter. And since I already left clicked, I'm going to click here and drag this over to the edge. And then what I can do is use the dimension tool to make sure that this first line right here is 10 down, and it will move it down the appropriate distance. Now at this point I can hit finish sketch, I can hit the extrude button and zoom in, select this portion, and I can hit cut. And I would suggest cutting like 0.5 or something small and hit OK. And you can do that all the way around the entire object lined up so that you get this little division point. For those of you that aren't as comfortable with the program, you don't have to do this, but it is something that's pretty simple to do. So I would advise at least attempting to do this, because things will just get more challenging as we continue. So I'm going to go ahead and undo that step. And I'm going to show you how to actually color your object for those of you that don't know. The color wheel is up here. Depending on what we select or how many faces we select determines how many things that will be colored. For this, we just want to select the color wheel, and if I highlight one of the edges, it will select the entire object. And you'll notice that there's a paint dropper. Right now the paint dropper is on there because it's trying to pull a certain color, which is not what we want to do. I want to adjust the color beforehand, and it doesn't really matter what color you make the camera, but I'm going to go ahead and select a darker color. So I'm going to move it down to a darker color, like a gray or almost a black, and I'm going to hit OK. So I have the entire camera black right now by doing that. At this point now I can change individual portions. Maybe I want this portion to be a little bit lighter. I can click on it, hit the wheel, and then I can change the colors this way. So maybe I want this portion to be, I don't know, white. So I can hit OK. I would probably do the same thing with this one. Hit OK. Maybe I want my button to be red. Left click here and left click on this portion with holding down the control button so that I can select both at the same time. And maybe I'll change this button to a reddish color. Maybe I'll change this one to a blue. Hit OK. So I'm sitting there and I'm slowly changing the colors. So when you get to that point, color your camera, make sure that it's in the appropriate view when you hit the home button, and then you're finished.